Hi there. So, I'm going to show you a little bit about how to create layers, color on layers, how to organize layers, that kind of good stuff. Hopefully, this won't be too long and take up too much of your time, but I figured this would be the easier way to use a complete one and then kind of recolor it. So, here's this girl that I drew a little while back. And if you look over here at my folders, and these are my layers. So folder 7, the other stuff I decided to hide, not use, like these down here, sketches, potential background stuff. I don't remember what that is. Obviously not important because the picture's complete. So it's just a folder, so it's organized. How I did that is I came up here, create folder, and then it's in there. So she's all in here. If I click the little eyeball button, she goes away. Just hides her, so I can't see her. So in there I put lines and colors. Now, the lines are above the colors because I like my pictures for the lines to be clear. You can see them. It makes it cleaner. So if I could hide that, you see just my color, except for the eyes. I moved the eyes into the color layer, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. Hide the color. Now there's just my lines. So there's that. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to color her head again so you can see kind of stacking layers and stuff and the effects that has, how it helps your art. So first thing I'm going to do, and because this is just me, this is how I roll, is see I've named this layer here face in her colors. It's the lines for her eyes and mouth. Now I'm going to move it out because I'm going to start a new folder so you can see all that stuff. So turn that off, turn that on. So now here was my lines originally after my sketch. So I'm going to create a new folder, put a layer in there, and this will be her skin. Now I always put my skin on the very bottom of all the stuff I'm doing because clothes go above your skin, the eyes are going to be on the skin, it's just bottom to me. So we're going to move face above the skin, and then I'm going to hide it. And here's why. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to click this tool right here. Now this tool is a selection tool. It'll select stuff so that way you don't color outside of it. Now I only want to color her skin, nothing else. And so I'm going to click inside of her skin. It turns blue. That doesn't mean it's actually colored blue. It just means that I'm selecting on the inside of it. Now my lines are closed here. They're pretty clean. If you zoom really far in, you can also see where it's not the cleanest, where it selects. That's actually one of the reasons I like Clip Studio better. But that's also just the settings that you pick on Sai. You can fix that, but to me it's easier to use on Clip Studio. But it's still a good tool to use. You'll just have to make sure you clean it up. Now, if you look at her hand, you see where my lines aren't closed right there. So if I go to click that, it goes into her scarf because it has a way to escape there. I'm going to edit undo. I'll have to color that manually. That or go back and change my lines and clean it up. That's what I get for being lazy on my lines. So now if you look, I'm coloring. It only stays within what I've selected. Now I'm going to selection, clear. It's outside of it. Edit, undo. You can undo, redo your selection there. Still just inside of it. I mean, I could do anything in there. But it's only what's inside of my selection. So now give me a second and I will clean her hand or color her hand. Once again, it's probably going to be a little sloppy. I'm using this only for tutorial purposes. Okay, so I've colored her skin there. Now the next thing I want is to color her hair. Her hair falls over the eyes. No. So I'm going to create a new layer over face on top. And we'll label it hair. Okay, so if I turn on her face, you see her lines are still there. When I go to select, her eyes are going to interfere with everything. When I color it, that'll not be selected. I don't like that. I want her entire hair to be selected. So that's the reason I keep face turned off. It's the reason I had face turned off whenever I colored her skin. So let me select. Got her hair done. And then we're going to shade in her hair. You could also use the bucket tool. I just prefer using brush. That's just, it's a weird thing. Go down, and I'm going to shade in the little whites on the left on her bangs. Because like I said, Sai isn't the best for it. But it still works. I used Sai for a long time before I decided to switch over to Clip Studio. Now, I'm going to turn her face back on. It's underneath her hair. It's covering the lines on her eyes. It's so good. It looks better. Now, I want to color the whites of her eyes, so I'm going to create one in between skin and face. Skin, I want it to be above that. I don't want it to be on the same one, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. I put everything on different layers, so it makes it easier to turn around and color later. So, to me, the more layers, the better. Always, 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 always. So I'm going to color her eyes white. I wouldn't be able to use a selection tool on that because her eyes are wide open. It's not just an empty circle. I could do it for the inside of her eyes, or her pupils, I guess. So there's the whites of her eyes. New layer. Now I want to do her actual eyes. So once again, because it's white and it's underneath, I could do that. Bam. I still like to go through though, make sure my lines are colored pretty well though. So let me do that, make sure it's done. Okay. And one of the things I like about it being underneath is if you saw my whites, if I move it above the hair, they cover that stuff. Where it's sitting, it's perfectly where I want it to be. All right, now I'm going to show you, let me color her mouth real quick. Let me find a good pink for that. Just so she's not just skin colored, mouth open. Okay, so let me show you a little bit on how I shade to give you a start. So I want to shade her skin. I don't want it to be super flat like that. I want it to have a little bit more color to pop. So let me pick the shade that I want. Looks good. All right, so if I chose to color her skin now, remember, her skin is on the bottom. So if I go outside the lines of where I want it to be, you can't see it. If her skin was above, it would do all that good stuff, aside from the lines, because my lines are up there. That's why I want skin on the bottom. Now, say I want to color the hair. And I want to shade it, like said, shade her hair, put it on a new layer. It's outside the lines. You could do your selection just like we had just did, and that keeps it in there. You could do that. Or, hold on, I don't like that color actually for shading. Or the easiest way, and I love this, this is in almost any art program you find, is what's called clipping layers. So I've got this layer here. Let's do hair shade. Right? Now I need it to clip to hair. So I'm going to go up here where it says clipping group, and I'm going to click that. What it does is that attaches it to that one. Okay? So now it only stays on what was colored previously on this one. So anything that's on this one, it'll color. So she's getting herself, we're shading the back of her hair. It's probably still not dark enough, but that's okay. So I'm going to go back down to skin, and I'm going to do the same thing. New layer, clip. Let me find a color that I like for shading, something a little darker to show some shadows. I'm going to color her neck, where her chin goes over her nose. Give a little bit of depth to that. Color her ears because they're hidden by her hair. Color where her bangs fall. Just give it a little bit of shadows. Underneath the eyes. And there we go. So I can come down here and I can color her hands. There's that. If I unclip it, it'll go outside of it, as you can see. So it stays clipped. That's where you want it to be. Then I'm going to make a new one, clip it again, and anything you clip, as you clip, because they're stacked, those things are going to go on top. So if I go a darker shade, it goes on top. That's not that obvious, so let's do that. It goes on top of what I just did. So I'm going to delete that layer, and I'm going to show you another tool that I love to use when I do shading, because it helps with picking colors. One of the biggest challenges, obviously, is picking colors. What do you like? What's going to blend well? What's going to look good? So I'm going to go back and I'm going to click her original color of her skin, which I have in my palette over there. And I'm going to take this, and there's modes to your layers. There's several. If you get other programs, they have more. But Sai's got your basic, which I love them. Multiply is my absolute favorite. So this one makes it where it colors on top of the color. And what I mean by that is it's great for blending. It's great for finding colors. It changes based on what's underneath it. So if you look here, it doesn't hide what you just did. It just shades with it. So let me undo. It's a great tool for helping you pick colors. And what I usually use it for is for like different shading. So I like to give her a little bit more shading up here. I want it to be a little bit darker, so let me go with a little bit of a darker color. And you could do that. And so now she's got this blended look up here. I don't want her blush on her cheeks to just be plain, boring red that covers that up. I mean, that actually looks cute, but it covers up that stuff underneath. I do that, and you still see her lines underneath, or where you shade it. So I love the multiply tool. Play with it, find colors that you like. It's great. It does really, really well. So now I'm just going to go through and shade the other things that I like to do. Give herself a little bit of a shade on her eyes, because her eyes aren't going to stay just white. She's looking up. Just see a little bit of that effect. I see I clipped it. Unclip, it covers, it goes outside of it. Clip, it's on the white. Coloring eyes is really, really a lot of the times where I use multiply. I want there to be darkness in her eyes. Go that. Next thing I use, luminosity. Now screen overlay, I don't use those that often. A lot of people do. They're great tools. I just personally don't. I love luminosity. Now let me give her eyes a little bit more of a yellow. We'll do that. And bam, it's bright. It kind of creates a glow effect, is what luminosity does. And from the last thing, I always go back to multiply again for coloring eyes. I could leave it like that, but I like to give it a little bit more shadow. So my airbrush on top, and there we are. She's got some pretty eyes. Now she needs some whites above her eyes. If I do it right here, go back to the color white. If I do it right here, it doesn't cover up her eyes that we like. But if I put it above face, bam, it covers up that the eyes, and it shows a little bit more of a reflect. And you can mess with the opacity, so it gives it a little bit more of a, I don't know, realistic look. Bright whites usually isn't a good thing in art. So I'm going to come up here, clip, go and multiply. See, that was the exact same color I used earlier, or this for this, and it's showing up darker. It just gives it a nice, like, it helps you shade. Now, I don't like it being that contrast, so I'm going to lower the opacity, and that gives it a sweet little, it's not as dark. And then, of course, I want her hair to glow, because I like shine on things. So I'm going to go to the luminosity layer and do that. And bam, there we are. There's her face covered, or colored, with clipping layers using multiply and luminosity. So there we have it. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. Let me know. I will answer any questions best I can. I'm not an expert. It's just for a hobby, but I love helping. So thanks for tuning in.